Okie dokie. First, let's talk about the arrangement on Mr. Tambourine Man. So you have what you have, and when you get to the end of what you have on that second sheet, the last measure being this chord here, open 7, 6, 7 to the 5th fret of the B string. Then what you would do is you would go back to letter A on the first sheet. And repeat. Second ending right there, so you have that first measure of the second ending, which is this, and then what you would do from there is you would go back to the very top line, the introduction, like this. So on and so forth, and then what they do is they just play that introduction over and over, and they just kind of fade out. So that's how you would finish up that arrangement. I'll repeat it one more time. You got the first sheet I sent you, the second sheet, you get to the end of the second sheet, and then you would go back to the first sheet, letter A, do the repeat, get to the second ending, and after that first measure of the second ending, back to the intro for as many times as you want to play it. I was going to give a couple of other thoughts on this. I'm going to look at the second sheet that I sent you, and we're up here on this D chord, open 7, 7, 5, and then we go to, and then we have that long pause up to that 10th fret. Okay, so in that third measure where it has the open 7, 6, 7, 5. If you want in there, you can just do some random strumming or arpeggios like this. I'll take it from the beginning of that line on that second sheet. So I just did some random strums. You can do anything you want there. I'm going to play from that third measure of the first line on the second sheet. So you could do, and then go up and grab that note. So once again, that was just some random arpeggios. Whatever you do, just end it soon enough so that you'll have time to come up there with the first finger and grab that 10th fret of the high E string. Or as I said, you could do strums there. And then the same thing at the very end of the second sheet, you have that same chord. You see how the measure at the end of the second sheet is identical to the third measure of the first line on the second sheet? Both of them end like this. So the same thing, when you get to that last measure on the second sheet, you can do a similar thing. you go back to the beginning. Okay? So what I'll do is I will play it from the top of the second sheet, and I'll play it all the way through till we get to letter A, and I'll play a little bit of letter A, but you'll hear me doing the fill-ins where I was talking about. So taking it from second sheet about here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Random, fill, back to letter A. And then so on and so forth, the way I explained that you would enter that. So that gives you the rest of the arrangement on that. Now, let's go to Little Drummer Boy and finish this up for the first time. There are going to be a couple of times through. This will be ending the first time through. Then we're going to see how we can use some alternate chords in a future video. So far we have this. That's where we end it, and then we get to the next line. We'll slide the ring finger back to the A chord, to that stacked A chord that you said you weren't having any trouble with, but now we actually have to stack all four, and then we lift up that pinky on the high E, put the pinky over to the 3rd fret, and then strum again. So that measure is and then we get to the E chord, a couple of little beats there to keep that drum beat going. So taking it from the 1, 2, 3, last measure of the 4th line, that D chord, here's what we would have. 1, 2. Then in the next line, we want to go back to the 1 finger A chord. Now here's something I want to point out. In that 3rd measure of that next to last line, you'll see the chord there is open 3, 2, 3. If you go up to the top to the 3rd measure of the 1st line, you see it's open 4, 2, 3. So it's the same phrase, but it's using a different chord. On the top line, we're using a D major to an A chord. As a variation, what you can do is you can go open, open 3, 2, 3, and use a D minor to the A chord. Or it's a subtle difference, and actually anywhere where you have that phrase, where you have that D chord doing that rum-pa-bum-bum line, you can choose to use either of those chords, and either one of them will sound fine. I'm going to play the first line, and I'll play it both ways. Now the other way, with the minor. So that's a little something that I developed in my playing of this song. I like to do it. I like to switch back and forth between the D major and the D minor, and it really doesn't matter. Like I said, when you do it, it just gives you a little bit of creative freedom. And then we get down to the very last line. You have to replay the 2 beats there. Now the last line, we'll want to, you can do it you're going to stack fingers again. It's going to be open, 2, 2, 2, open. You can either use 1, 2, 3. I actually tend to use 2, 3, 4. And then I just drop these 2 fingers down for the final chord. Okay, I'm going to play it from the top, and when I get to those measures that I talked about, where it has that rum-pa-bum-bum, the D going to the A, I'm just going to randomly choose, regardless of what's written, to either use the D major like this or the D minor like that, just to show you that it really doesn't matter, and it's a way to give some variety to the song. So about here, 1, 2. Minor. Major. See, I like that variation. To the E. Back to the 1 finger. Minor. And then we'll continue on with a variation using some different chords that are popular to use in this particular Christmas carol. So there you go on that. Let me know if there's any questions or difficulties that we need to address.